Since No Man's Sky came out last week, I'd been playing it from my gameplay channel, and just today, when I was recording some episodes, I decided to go down to a planet and just kind of roam around, get some exploration done, and, just kind of increase my supply stores and possibly my inventory space. But what ensued when I went down to that planet was about an hour of wandering around, going from point to point, hoping to find what I wanted. And I did manage to find at least one thing that I wanted, but it wasn't enough. No Man's Sky is supposed to be a game all about exploration. They really pushed this huge procedurally generated world as a place where you can go out and you can explore and you can have an exciting time, and there's going to be so many things to do, but when it comes right down to it, after you spend 15 minutes on a planet, you realize that the only thing that you have left to discover is how much everything is the same everywhere in this game. What's going on, guys? My name is ingeniousclown, and procedural generation kinda sucks, doesn't it? Now, don't get me wrong, procedural generation is a valuable tool that you can have in your toolbox as a game developer, but it's becoming painfully apparent that game developers that try to build their whole game off of the back of procedural generation tend to fail at making the game interesting as a whole. No Man's Sky has this sense of wonder when you first start it up. You know that there's this huge universe out there to explore, and you're currently stuck down here on a planet that was freshly generated. Well, maybe not freshly generated, it's all kind of from an algorithm, but it's a planet that no one's ever discovered or been on before. And you get this immediate sense of huge scale and wonder and awe, and then you explore around the planet a little bit to get the materials that you need to fix your spaceship, and then you go out in space. And the first couple hours are pretty exciting, but after a while, you visit a few planets, you visit a few space stations, and you discover that everything's kind of the same. It doesn't matter what point in the universe you're at, the interactions on every single planet are the same. There's a handful of creatures, there's rocks that you've probably seen on other planets, there's the same materials on every single planet, there's flowers that spit out zinc on every single planet, there's shield spitting out flowers on every single planet. You see the same 3 alien races everywhere you go, along with the same exact ruins, the same exact knowledge stones, the same exact building architecture, and it all becomes very stale very quickly once you realize that nothing in this universe is unique. And that's where procedural generation really trips over its own shoelaces and then falls on its face. When you see it for the first time, it's impressive, but that impressiveness really just falls off into this again? Really? Is it just this again? And the feeling of sameness everywhere you look. It ends up being disappointing more than impressive. And you wonder how you were able to enjoy it in the first place. Maybe you wish you could go back and enjoy it again, but you just can't get past the fact that nothing interesting is happening. Spending this hour down on the planet, this is after half an hour of doing the same thing on another planet, mind you, it really burned me out on the game faster than just going from star to star did. And in a game about exploration, for it to really turn me off that badly when what I was doing was exploring, I can't help but think that that means that the game just completely missed the mark of what it was trying to do. There's no sense of wonder anymore because I know that whatever planet I go down to, I'll see the same stuff. I'll see the same resources, same architecture, same everything I mentioned earlier. And it's frustrating more than anything because I feel like as much as there is to discover, it's all just variants of the same thing, meaning there's not really anything to discover. Everything's already been experienced. And like I said earlier, don't take that to mean that procedural generation as a tool is a bad thing. In fact, one of my favorite games of all time, The Binding of Isaac, procedural generation is a huge part of it. But I think the difference here is that procedural generation isn't the draw of the game. What makes that game fun is the action and the items and the interaction with those items. And the fact that getting those items and those interactions with those items is random every time. Procedural generation helps along everything that the game is. It enhances what the game is. No Man's Sky, on the other hand, is built around the idea of procedural generation. When you have a universe that's literally the size of the universe, how are you going to guarantee that anything is going to be interesting? The whole experience can be boiled down to a collection of points, and then traveling from point to point. But unfortunately, everything between these points don't have anything to make it interesting. There's no events, the combat's kinda lame, and every world just feels unbelievably sterile. Occasionally you'll be faced with like this huge vista and this long draw distance and trees everywhere, and it looks good, and then it really sinks in, but there's nothing in all that space. There's nothing there. I already made a comparison to The Binding of Isaac and using procedural generation as something to enhance the game rather than to build the game around. But on the other hand of procedural generation, you have something that is deliberately crafted for a specific kind of experience. And of course, I'm thinking of single-player games that have level designers that lovingly craft whole worlds for specific kinds of interaction. The Metroid series or Mass Effect series or any series that has lots of really intricate level design is a good example here. Sure, these games are considerably shorter than something like No Man's Sky, but we're getting to the realm of quality over quantity here. Maybe you're also thinking, hey, what about Minecraft? Minecraft is completely procedurally generated, yet it's actually good. Well, think about Minecraft this way. If you weren't able to actually build things for yourself, like your own home or your own base, would you still be interested in it? All you would have is aimlessly wandering the landscape, exploring what turns out to be absolutely nothing. I think something that could really improve No Man's Sky and games like No Man's Sky that really build themselves around the procedural generation aspect is to have deliberately crafted gameplay events that everybody is meant to find for themselves. And by find, I mean like maybe the third planet you go to, or maybe when you reach level 15, no matter what order of planets you go to, you experience this crazy event. Like, maybe the next star you go to will have a big city generated on it. And when you go down to this big city, maybe the inhabitants of this city are impressed with you and your race and the fact that you got down here all by yourself, and they give you a quest, and then maybe the quest takes you somewhere to have some interesting combat. I think also having more interesting combat would help it out a lot too. And I'm just saying, No Man's Sky combat kind of sucks. But that's just an example of something that could really make this work. In my 11 hours of playing No Man's Sky, the only quote-unquote event that I've found is maybe the big diamond in the sky that's on the cover art, and then these weird anomalies between the diamonds in the sky. Even then, those don't really feel like events. They more so feel like things that I have to visit to progress. I don't find them interesting, I don't find them exciting, and ultimately, that's what kind of ruins the game for me. I'm hoping that we don't see many more games like No Man's Sky in the near future, because if this game has been any indication, our computing technology isn't ready for this level of procedural generation. I'm pretty sure their goal here was to be 100% generated. But again, that comes back to the question of, how do you make that interesting? How do you make it variant enough such that you don't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again no matter how many different planets you go to? How do you get enough art assets to make it look like everything is unique? How do you stop it from becoming just another missed opportunity? Well, that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button on your way out. I would greatly appreciate it. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already for more awesome gaming content here in the future. And I will see you next time.